Hello and welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Sophia Lucia Parola with Garden State Film Festival. This year, March 21st through March 24th, 2024, you can check out the 22nd annual Garden State Film Festival in Asbury Park, New Jersey and Cranford, New Jersey. There will be 200 films screening across venues, all different types of films from 14 countries. And one of the films you can check out is a short documentary called Be Not Afraid. Here to talk with us about the film is filmmaker Chris Carden. He is director, producer, DP, editor, pretty much one man band in this film. So he is the
Yeah.
man we want to talk to. Chris, thank you for taking the time out to talk to me and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thanks, and thanks for having us. Yeah, it was kind of a labor of love here. I've been working for the department for this June will be 25 years, and in that
Wow.
time, we've told a lot of stories. But this is really one of the first stories that we've told that kind of gives perspective from who we call the persons. Be Not
Mm,
Afraid is a story that is essentially um, a story about redemption. And back in 22, I filmed a winter concert of a band that had formed there. And my supervisor, Amy Quinn, who is the Office of Public Information, and I knew that there was a story to be told. And so we began to dig into it and found that indeed there was quite a lot to be said about the power of music,
mm,
and the power of redemption, how music and how making music and learning how to play music is often a labor of collaboration. So many things that you learn from creating music that you would normally expect, but there's just so much to it. And then, of course, we ended up following the lead singer who was, serving a we sent towards release. And I don't want to spoil the film for people who haven't seen it or know anything about it.
mm.
But it's a really moving tribute to the human spirit, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so beautiful, and music is really just such a universal therapeutic language. And it's amazing from the perspective that we get to see it in Be Not Afraid. So tell me what went into just starting to even think of making this film. What did you guys have to do, and what was that process of filming it like?
Well, as I said, we knew at Garden State that there was going to be a concert, and I think the concert was tied to a graduation of some of the incarcerated persons because we know the musical theory program, which is the thing that we concentrate on at Garden State Correctional Facility, is part of the educational program. So,
Mm,
these guys that are in the band are taking advantage of opportunities that are provided to them from the department. And you don't, when you normally think about that, you think, okay, GED or college or opportunities to work and learn skills in those ways. But no one really ever thinks, hey, why don't I start a band and see if
mm,
these guys can play instruments, and maybe that'll work out for them. But it's we have a very dedicated music teacher there by the name of Dante Colucci, and he's actually been this for 25 years. He's been bringing people into the program. A lot of these guys who are coming into the program have zero musical experience, and but an abundance of talent and willingness to learn. And over the many of those guys have looked up to Dante as not only a mentor but as a father figure, and they go on to better things. And again, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a lot to be said here about someone coming in and taking advantage of the programs that we offer, particularly the musical theory program, and growing, changing, and transforming, and becoming a better person. And essentially, at the end of the day, this is really the mission of the Department of Corrections. We don't just house people. You don't just put somebody in a cell and throw away the key. You really have to
mm,
offer them every single opportunity to become better people. And this
mm.
program is one of many programs, but it was one that I thought was very dramatic. And so many great things happened for the people in the program that we were just able to capture. We were just very blessed with being in the right place at the right time.
Mm.
And I was really, really happy to be able to kind of put it all together. And it just came together perfectly and kind of organically.
Oh, and speaking of these people that you gotta kinda go in and watch their process and interview, I mean, how did they feel about you coming in and asking these questions and filming them in their environment?
Yeah.
Like, did you experience pushback? Was it more welcoming? What was that like?
Well, I think you have to remember that, you know, at the end of the day, these guys are people, right? So some people are going to be more receptive than others. Um, there are a number of people in the prison who probably wouldn't want to take part. Maybe they're just not emotionally ready to take that next step. But these guys are in that program are clearly looking to do something that would improve their lives. You know, give themselves an outlet for creativity, and because they're kind of prone to opening themselves up in that way, they were really easy to talk to. I think when I first got there, I was told they kind of looked at me askance, like, "Who is this guy? What does he want? What does he want from us?" Because honestly, a lot of the people in their lives up until that point probably didn't have their best interest at heart. So,
Mm,
I come, I've got my camera. I'm expecting them to be instantly open and vulnerable. I'm
mm,
sure it took a little bit, but I really work hard at trying to make myself as open and honest with these guys. And I find myself not only being a filmmaker, but as being someone that they look up to as an example. And I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I mean, when you come in and you speak to an individual with honesty and genuinely want to help this person, these people,
mhm,
they receive that. They see it in your heart. No, this guy is. And so it made
mhm,
it a lot easier for them to really just open themselves up. I had them, I literally had them sitting in cells when I was filming them because I wanted
mhm,
a sense of kind of a claustrophobic sense, from a visual standpoint. But I also wanted people to kind of feel that with them. Here I
mhm,
am in prison, and
right.
I'm not getting out anytime soon. But look at the things that I'm doing. And there is a line that I put on my one sheet, which is the poster for the film. It says, "In prison, music sets you free." And I think that really encapsulates kind of the whole feeling behind this thing. Like these guys are, they don't have, they don't have a lot of decisions, made. Well, they don't make decisions for themselves, is what I mean to say.
Mhm,
A lot of decisions are made for them. But here's a way for them to come in and make a decision to, learn, to cooperate, to grow, to transform, as I said. Um, and it's a really beautiful thing to watch. And I know the film works, and I'll tell you why. My boss, who is also a former journalist and just a fantastic human being, let me go for days and weeks, months. I think we shot this over the course of 10 months.
wow.
Um, I had her watch it, and I'm going to put her on blast right now. She came back into my office with tears in her eyes. And for me, I was like, well, it worked. I did it. I
Mhm,
did exactly what I wanted. I wanted people to feel for these individuals. I wanted them to empathize with them, and they did. And I think anybody that sees it, because everybody that's seen it has told me exactly at the very point that they came to tears. I'm like, well, there it is,
mhm.
and we led to that point on purpose.
Oh,
So from a filmmaker's point of view, from a storyteller's point of view, I think it really came together.
yeah. I absolutely agree, and I mean, I'm getting emotional. I'm a very sensitive, emotional person, but I'm getting emotional just hearing you talk about it. You can tell
Yeah.
just hearing you talk about it how powerful and unique and special this is. And I'm wondering, you yourself, I mean, you're a journalist and you have over 20 years doing this. So I'm sure
Yeah.
you're kind of good at doing what you have to do and leaving that emotional self maybe somewhere else. As a journalist, I guess you can't really get that wrapped up in the pieces that you're covering. Did you feel different coming out of this when you were done after this 10 months of filming and hearing these people's stories, then you started it? And also the people that you were interviewing and seeing, did you feel like they were different after filming them and talking to them?
That's an interesting question because yes, from a journalist standpoint, you don't typically get emotionally involved with the subjects
Mhm.
because you may literally have, not to be gruesome, but I mean, if you're working on a crime beat like I did, You go from interviewing mothers of murdered children one day to, someone who may have lost their home in a flood or a tornado the next. I mean, you can't take all of that home. You can't, literally.
Right.
But in order to do your job well, you also do have to be able to understand what your subjects are going through so that you can ask them the right questions,
Hmm.
uh, and that you can speak to them with empathy, and so that they can feel like you understand. So at the end of the day, I think the best journalists are the best human beings. And I know that's very ideal to say, but you have to be a human being to understand humans. And
Hmm.
I think that's really what I focused on. Not seeing these guys as people who were, criminals, right? Because they're in prison. Clearly, they did something terrible, and they're there for years, and some of them will be there for years to come. Um, but you have to see beyond that, and you have to see them as human beings, and ask them questions as human beings. And what did I come away with that? Yeah, came away with that very notion kind of solidified. Like, these are just people, and from a storyteller standpoint, I know that their story would connect with others. Now, most of us have never been to prison, but you can understand that people make mistakes. You can
Hmm.
understand if somebody has difficult relationships with their families. We all have those. You can understand if someone has been denied freedom for a long time and is now facing freedom, not only with anticipation, but with fear, because that's all they've known. All of these things are human emotions, which is why the best, like I say, the best storytellers are the best human beings.
Speaking of being, the best storyteller and just basically making a successful film, when you finish it, that's a success. You wore basically every hat in this. What
Yeah.
contributed to making this short documentary a success? What have you learned in your career as a filmmaker that will help you get to the finish line and make a film and make a meaningful film?
The hardest part of any project that I do, either as a writer or as a filmmaker, is finishing. Starting is easy.
Mm,
Starting, you have this great, big, wonderful idea, and then you have to sit down with yourself and say, well, how am I going to make this happen? Which steps do I have to go through to go from A to B to C? Where is the story? But that's when your journalistic uh, kind of instincts kick in. You see where the beginning is, you see where the middle is, and most of the time when or at least for me, when I decide to take on a story, I know where the end is too.
mm,
And in a documentary, you don't always get that. We were really lucky to be able to see where the ending was going to be. And, things changed over the course of those 10 months, but it kind of worked out the way that I thought it would. And I've never been
mm.
shy about doing everything myself. Um, I will say, and my boss will probably agree, I'm a little bit of a control freak. Uh, I don't mind doing things on my own because I know the amount of control that I can have over each thing. And I've been training myself uh, over the course of 2 decades, more than 2 decades, to recognize what my strengths are, where my weaknesses are, and work on those. I've been really trying to focus on the cinematography aspect of it because I'm okay with the story part of it. Um, I was originally first started out as a journalist. I was a photojournalist. I was a still photographer, and then
Mm,
I moved into writing, and then I got back into camera work. I just learned how to do nonlinear editing. I think the first short film I ever did, I learned Final Cut Pro there, and I've been sticking with Final Cut ever. I just learned how to do color correcting a little bit better than I had. So I'm always trying to improve. It would be nice at one point if somebody threw me a bunch of money and I could hire a
right.
shooter and a color corrector and a director and a producer, and I just sit back and tell them what to do. But that's, listen, that's not going to happen anytime soon. And if I can make something happen here where people really respond to it, I'm just as happy to do it myself.
Hmm.
Oh, as far as the other
Speaking,
question was concerned, yeah, let me
yeah.
answer that. Do you feel like they changed? I don't think they changed in response to anything that I did. I was a witness, and I made sure that I told them that the whole time. Listen,
Mm,
I'm not even here. Pay no attention to me. I'm just recording this. But you could see the changes that they went through because of the program, and particularly the lead singer Ben, who becomes the focus of the film, who goes from being a he's a positive guy, but you know the struggles that he's gone through, and you could see how hard he's worked to really change his life and take advantage of all the things that we offer. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we owe a big debt to our educational folks in the prison who have dedicated themselves to really working with our population and giving them every opportunity to learn, to grow, to educate themselves, to become better people. Because we know most of the people that are in prison are not going to stay in prison. They're going to come back to their towns. They're going to come back to your town. And one of the most prescient things I think in the film that said is, what would you rather have happen? Would you rather have somebody go to prison, learn nothing, and come out and be a better criminal, or would you want to educate them and have them come out and be a better individual in the end? And I think that question is answered at the end of the film. No spoilers.
So my last question for you, Chris, I mean, it really is such a pleasure to talk to you and hear about making this film, but you mentioned it many times throughout this conversation, but just again, what does this film mean to you, and what are you hoping audiences in general, but specifically our audiences at, the 22nd Annual Garden State Film Festival, what are you hoping they get out of watching Be Not Afraid?
I think Be Not Afraid will give people a behind-the-scenes look at a very unusual program, something that you wouldn't expect to see. Like that, when you think of prison, you don't think of guys walking around with guitars and drum sets, singing and collaborating. You don't think of that. This shows this in a very intimate way, but it also shows an individual who is going through something extremely emotional and facing things he's never faced before. So I really want people to connect with these individuals as people and kind of take a look at the Department of Corrections a little bit differently. Like, yes, we're human beings too. We really want to help these guys. I had an old boss who used to say, we're in the business of putting ourselves out of business. We don't want people to go to prison. We don't want them to stay there. Mm-hmm. We want them to do well. And I think a film like this can change the perspective, not only of the department, but of people who have made some significantly bad choices and are paying for them. And hopefully, you'll accept them as human beings when they come out, and hopefully they'll be better people.
Well, thank you so much to you and everyone involved and everyone at the correction facility for making Be Not Afraid and making this possible.
Let me before I go, because I'm going to get it. Let me thank the commissioner. I'll thank the commissioner of the department, Victoria Kuhn, executive director Dan Sparazza, director Amy Quinn. I want to thank Dante Coluccio, who was the teacher, and administrator David Richards, who helped facilitate this whole thing. Everybody bent over backwards for me to get this thing done, and it's just really paid off. And I want to thank you guys for recognizing it, and I'm really looking forward to sitting there in a huge audience and seeing it with everybody else. So thank you. Yes. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone you just mentioned, and of course, everyone we get to see in this beautiful film. Let me tell everyone watching how they can see it at Garden State Film Festival. It will be screening Saturday, March 23rd. The film block starts at 5:45 p.m. in Cranford Theater. Definitely come check it out. Meet this amazing man and everyone else who gets to show up. And thank you again, Chris. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'll see you at the festival.
I appreciate it. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.